He read my termination letter aloud in front of 63 pairs of eyes and smiled. That night, my stepfather's fist connected with my jaw. Then he whispered, "Family comes first." I thought I'd only lost my job. Turns out, they'd been stealing my entire life with signatures that weren't mine. The next morning, I walked into that office with bruises hidden under concealer and a USB drive. From the moment I plugged it in, none of them were safe anymore. My name is Natalie Pierce, and until that Monday morning, I thought I knew exactly who my enemies were. The fluorescent lights in North Star Fulfillment's operations floor hummed like angry wasps as Kurt Halford strutted into our 9A stand-up meeting. I'd already checked the metrics 3 times that morning. The 6-figure shipment delay wasn't on me. The system logs proved it. But Kurt's smile, that practiced corporate executioner's grin, told me facts wouldn't matter today. "Pierce," he barked, loud enough for all 63 employees to hear. "Care to explain why the Morrison account is threatening to pull their contract?" My throat constricted. The delay originated from the warehouse management system update. I submitted the incident report showing excuses. He slapped a folder onto the table between us. "This pattern of negligence ends now." Pattern. My pulse hammered against my temples. In 3 years, I'd never missed a deadline that was actually within my control. Around me, coworkers shifted uncomfortably, some already pulling out phones. The soft clicking sounds might as well have been guillotine blades dropping. "Mr. Halford, if you check the system logs from Thursday at 2:15 p.m. I don't need to check anything." He opened the folder with theatrical slowness, revealing a termination letter. My termination letter. Effective immediately. The words on the page blurred as he read them aloud, each syllable a public flogging. Inadequate performance. Failure to meet expectations. Lack of accountability. Lies wrapped in corporate language, delivered to an audience of my peers who knew better but stayed silent. Security arrived before he finished reading 2 guards flanking me like I was a criminal. My hands shook as they watched me pack my desk into a cardboard box, a coffee mug from my brother, a photo from last year's team-building event. Back when I still believed hard work meant something here, my access badge made a hollow sound when I dropped it on Kurt's desk. The walk to the exit stretched forever. 63 pairs of eyes tracked my humiliation. Someone definitely recorded it. I saw the subtle angle of phones, the barely concealed smirks of those who were just grateful it wasn't them. Kurt's laughter followed me out, a sound I'd hear in my nightmares. By the time I reached my apartment in Maple Falls, my phone had exploded with messages. The video was already circulating. My professional execution, viral within hours. I should have known that was just the beginning. 8:45 p.m. My mother Marjorie called, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Dale needs you to stop by. Some paperwork thing. Won't take long." The house smelled like stale beer and cigarette smoke when I arrived. Dale sat at the kitchen table, a stack of documents beside him, his thick fingers drumming an impatient rhythm. "Need your signature," he said without looking up. "Family financial restructuring." I leaned in to read. The letterhead said Lakeview Mutual Credit Union, but the text swam before my tired eyes. "What is this exactly?" "Just supplemental documentation. Your mother already signed." Something cold settled in my stomach. "I need to read it first." His hand slammed the table. Marjorie flinched from the doorway. "After everything we've done for you, the roof over your head through college, and you can't trust us with simple paperwork. I just lost my job. Dale, I can't sign financial documents. I haven't." The blow came from nowhere. His fist connected with my jaw, spinning me backward into the wall. The copper taste of blood filled my mouth as I slumped to the floor, vision sparking with white stars. He crouched beside me, close enough that I could smell the whiskey on his breath. "Family comes first. Natalie. Always has. Always will. You'd do well to remember that." I stumbled to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. In the harsh vanity lighting, blood bloomed across the white porcelain sink. My reflection stared back split lip, bruise already forming along my jawline. Behind my own battered face, I saw them clearly for the first time, the two men who were destroying my life. One in a conference room, one in a kitchen. Neither would get away with it. The debt collection calls started Tuesday morning at 7:30 a.m. before I'd even finished icing my jaw. Ms. Pierce, this is regarding your overdue MasterCard payment of $8,300. What MasterCard? I sat up too fast, sending pain shooting through my face. I don't have a MasterCard. 3 more calls followed within the hour. A Visa, an American Express, a personal loan from Lakeview Mutual Credit Union for $15,000. Each collector recited the same information: accounts opened in my name, maxed out, payments overdue. The mailing address on all of them, APO Box, registered to Marjorie Collins. My brother Evan arrived at noon, taking one look at my bruised face before pulling me into a careful hug. Jesus, Nat, we're going to the police. First, help me figure this out. I showed him the notes I'd scrawled during the collection calls. These aren't my accounts. Evan, who'd spent 4 years troubleshooting aircraft systems in the Air Force, approached the problem methodically. Within an hour, he'd pulled my credit reports from all 3 bureaus. The evidence spread across my laptop screen like a roadmap of betrayal. Look at these signatures. He zoomed in on the account applications. That's supposed to be your handwriting. The signature read N. Pierce, but the letters were wrong, too loopy. The P lacking my characteristic sharp downstroke. My real signature, the one I'd perfected in college, had precise angles. This was almost childlike in comparison. Check the dates, I said, my investigative instincts finally breaking through the fog of trauma. March 15th, March 22nd, April 3rd. Evan cross-referenced with his phone calendar. You were at that logistics conference in Detroit on the 15th. I remember because you sent me that photo from the airport. And the 22nd wasn't that your Portland site visit. Every fraudulent transaction aligned with my documented absences. Someone had been watching my schedule, waiting for windows when I couldn't possibly have been in Michigan to open these accounts. We need to visit the bank, Evan said, at Lakeview Mutual Credit Union. We waited 40 minutes before Gordon Huff, a senior manager with nervous eyes, agreed to see us. His office smelled like coffee and fear. These signatures were verified according to our protocols, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. How? Evan leaned forward. My sister was in Portland when this account was opened. Here's her hotel receipt, her conference registration, her flight records. Gordon's fingers trembled as he clicked through screens. The signature verification was overridden. By who? I need to check with legal before Gordon. I kept my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. Someone stole my identity. Someone at this bank helped them. You can tell me now, or you can tell the FBI later. He glanced at his office door, then back at his screen. Reed Nolan. He's a credit officer. He processed all of these applications and personally overrode the signature verification flags. How many times? 4 accounts, all within 6 weeks. Evan was already screenshotting everything with his phone. We need copies of all documentation. Everything. Gordon printed stack after stack applications, override logs, transaction histories. One detail made my blood freeze. The emergency contact on every fraudulent account was Dale Collins, relationship listed as father. That son of a bitch, Evan muttered. But I was thinking bigger. Gordon, who trained Reed on override procedures. That would be his supervisor, but Reed mentioned he had external guidance. Something about best practices from a corporate partner. Which corporation? Gordon pulled up Reed's personnel file, then went pale. There's a commendation here from 3 months ago for strengthening banking relationships with key accounts. The letter is signed by Kurt Halford, North Star Fulfillment. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. My termination hadn't been random workplace cruelty. It had been elimination of a witness. Evan helped me organize everything into folders, digital copies backed up to 3 different cloud services, physical copies in a safe deposit box at a different bank. Each document was photographed, cataloged, cross-referenced. We built a timeline on my wall with string and pins like detectives in a movie. Except this was my life laid out in devastating detail. Nat, Evan said as we worked past midnight, this isn't just identity theft. This is conspiracy. I touched my bruised jaw, remembering Dale's words. Family comes first. Now I understood what family meant to them, a criminal enterprise with me as their unwitting cash cow. Then we'd better build an airtight case, I said, adding another connection to our wall. Because I'm about to destroy their whole operation. The connection between Kurt Halford and Dale Collins revealed itself in an email I'd almost deleted 2 years ago. I found it while combing through my work account backup at 3:15 a.m. on Wednesday, eyes burning from staring at screens. The subject line read, "Urgent wire transfer. Approve ASAP." Kurt had demanded I process a payment to something called Bright Harbor LLC for emergency contractor services. $48,000. No purchase order, no proper documentation, just his signature and an implicit threat about my upcoming performance review. I'd pushed back initially, citing protocol. His response still made my skin crawl. Sometimes being a team player means knowing when not to ask questions. Pierce. Now, cross-referencing with the documents Evan had helped me compile, Bright Harbor LLC appeared again as the recipient of multiple transfers from the fraudulent accounts opened in my name. The LLC's registered agent Dale Collins. They've been using me as a bridge, I told Evan over coffee that had long gone cold. Kurt forces through questionable payments at work. Dale siphons money from accounts in my name, and somehow it all flows to the same place. My brother studied the paper trail we'd mapped on my apartment wall. How long has this been going on? I traced the connections with my finger. The first suspicious wire transfer Kurt ordered. 3 weeks after Dale married Mom. That can't be coincidence. The pattern became clearer as I dug deeper into my old emails and files. Every few months, Kurt would pressure me to expedite payments to various contractors, always urgent, always lacking proper documentation, always with that subtle threat hanging in the air. I'd complied to keep my job, thinking I was just dealing with a boss who cut corners. Look at this. I pulled up an internal email chain from 6 months ago. Kurt had CC'd someone outside the company on a discussion about accounts receivable optimization. The external email R. Nolan Lakeview Mutual Com. Reed Nolan, Evan said. The same guy who overrode your signatures at the bank. They're all connected. Kurt, Reed, Dale, it's a whole network. I found more evidence in my project files. Shipping manifests that had been altered after my approval. Inventory discrepancies I'd flagged but Kurt had dismissed. Vendor contracts with payment terms that made no sense. Each irregularity coincided with periods when fraudulent charges appeared on the accounts I didn't know existed. Remember that time Kurt insisted you take that Portland trip last minute? Evan asked. I nodded. He said the client specifically requested me, but when I got there, they were surprised to see me. The meeting had been scheduled for the following week. He was getting you out of town so Dale could open accounts. The scope of their coordination made me nauseous. Kurt would manufacture reasons to send me away, feed my travel schedule to Dale, who would then walk into Lakeview Mutual where Reed would rubber stamp whatever documents they put in front of him. A perfect triangle of fraud with me trapped in the center. I pulled up my employee handbook, searching for the company's ethics hotline. Then I stopped. Who would I even report this to? Kurt was senior management. For all I knew, this went higher. We need more proof, I said. Something undeniable. That's when I remembered the security cameras. North Star Fulfillment had upgraded their system last year. Everything was now stored digitally for 90 days. If I could access those recordings, I might find Kurt discussing these schemes. That's breaking and entering, Evan warned. Not if someone still employed there helps us. I thought of Melissa, the IT specialist who'd been in the bathroom crying after Kurt's last performance improvement meeting. She'd been forced to implement payment processing changes that violated basic security protocols. Kurt had threatened her H-1B visa status if she didn't comply. I texted her from a burner phone Evan had bought. I know what Kurt's been doing. I have proof. Are you interested in fighting back? Her response came at 4:47 Yes. Dear God, yes. She agreed to meet at a diner outside town. Over untouched pancakes. I showed her what we'd discovered. Her hands shook as she scrolled through the evidence. He made me create backdoor access to the payment system, she whispered. Said it was for emergency processing, but the logs show transfers at 2, 3 in the morning. I knew something was wrong, but my visa. Can you pull those logs? I can do better. I can show you exactly which terminals accessed the back door and when. Every keystroke is recorded. By Friday, we had everything terminal access logs showing Kurt's after-hours activity, payment records traced to Dale's LLC, emails between Kurt and Reed discussing special arrangements, and even a recorded conference call where Kurt explicitly mentioned needing to handle the Pierce situation before the audit. This is it, Evan said, looking at our mountain of evidence. This is enough to bury them. But I wanted more than burial. I wanted complete destruction, delivered in the same public forum where they'd tried to destroy me. Ava Montoya's office occupied the 17th floor of a glass tower in downtown Detroit. She specialized in financial fraud cases involving family members, exactly the kind of warfare I was about to wage. Walk me through this again, she said, her pen moving across a legal pad with surgical precision. Your stepfather physically assaulted you when you refused to sign documents. Yes. Monday night at 8:45 p.m. I touched my jaw where the bruise had turned purple-green. My brother documented the injuries. Ava studied the photographs Evan had taken, then the medical report from the urgent care clinic. And you believe this assault was connected to the identity theft? I know it was. I spread the evidence across her conference table like a general planning an invasion. Look at the timeline. Every fraudulent account opened while I was traveling for work. Kurt Halford controlled my schedule. Dale Collins opened the accounts. Reed Nolan at the bank overrode the security checks. She examined each document methodically, occasionally asking for clarification. After 2 hours, she leaned back with a predatory smile that made me understand why she had a 94% conviction rate. We're going to file 3 separate but interconnected cases, she announced. Criminal charges for identity theft and assault, civil suits for damages, and a wrongful termination claim with the Department of Labor. I want them all connected publicly, I said. No quiet settlements. Understood. First, we need Officer Dana Brooks from the Financial Crimes Unit. Officer Brooks arrived that afternoon, a tall woman with sharp eyes who took notes in shorthand while I recounted everything. She pulled up Dale's record 2 prior fraud investigations, both dropped when witnesses recanted. Classic intimidation pattern, Brooks observed. The assault gives us leverage. Judges don't look kindly on violence used to facilitate financial crimes. She helped me file for a personal protection order against Dale, effective immediately. This prevents him from coming within 500 feet of you or attempting any contact. Violation means immediate arrest. Next came the technical infrastructure. Evan, channeling his military training, transformed my apartment into a surveillance hub. Tiny cameras covered every entrance. Audio recorders with cloud backup ran continuously. He even installed a camera in my car, hidden behind the rearview mirror. We're also putting these in Mom's house, he said, holding up more devices. Is that legal? Common areas, only kitchen, living room, hallway? Michigan's a one-party consent state for audio recording in places where you'd reasonably be present. He'd clearly done his homework. If Dale threatens you again, we'll have it all. Ava coordinated with Officer Brooks to request subpoenas for bank records, employment files, and electronic communications. The legal machinery began turning, slow but inexorable. We need CCTV footage from the bank, Brooks noted. Every time Dale entered to open accounts in your name. Gordon Huff can help with that, I suggested, remembering the nervous manager who'd first revealed Reed's involvement. The net was tightening, but we needed more. Ava suggested a controlled confrontation. Call Dale, she said, sliding a recording device across her desk. Get him talking. Men like him love to brag about their cleverness when they think they've won. My hands shook as I dialed. Evan sat beside me, his presence steadying. Ava and Brooks listened on speaker. Dale answered on the third ring, his voice thick with afternoon drinking. Finally coming to your senses. I need to understand something. I kept my voice submissive, defeated the way he expected me to sound. Those signatures. How did you even know what mine looked like? He laughed. Your mother kept everything, you know. Every card, every letter. That graduation thank you note you sent perfect template. Practiced for weeks until Reed said it would pass. My stomach churned, but I pressed on. And Kurt, how long have you known him? Long enough. Man understands business. Real business. Not that corporate bullshit they teach you kids. Sometimes you gotta take what's yours. Was getting me fired part of it? You were getting too nosy. Kurt said you'd been asking questions about the transfers. Couldn't have that. Ava made a keep going gesture. What if I wanted in? I forced the words out. Instead of fighting, Dale's tone shifted, suddenly suspicious. You recording this? No, I lied. I'm tired of struggling. You and Kurt obviously have something profitable going. Smart girl. Maybe there's hope for you yet. Come by tomorrow. Bring those passwords Kurt mentioned, the ones for the vendor system. We'll discuss your future. After he hung up, Brooks smiled grimly. That's conspiracy, fraud, and admission of premeditated termination. Beautiful work. I feel sick, I admitted. Good, Ava said. It means you still have a conscience. They clearly don't. We spent the weekend building what Ava called the prosecution matrix, a comprehensive timeline with evidence tagged to every crime. The web of connections grew so complex we needed specialized software to map it all. Monday morning, Ava announced. We file everything simultaneously. Criminal charges, civil suits, and labor violations. They won't know what hit them. I want to be there when Kurt gets arrested, I said. Brooks and Ava exchanged glances. We might be able to arrange something better, Brooks said. How would you like to help us execute the warrants? The USB drive I prepared Sunday night contained 63 gigabytes of their own self-destruction. Melissa had worked magic with the terminal logs, extracting not just the access records but actual screenshots of Kurt's after-hours sessions. Every fraudulent transfer, every doctored invoice, every communication with Reed and Dale, all meticulously cataloged with timestamps and IP addresses. This is beautiful, Evan said, reviewing the file structure. But how do we get it onto Dale's machine? He wants me to bring passwords tomorrow, I said. I'll bring him something better. I crafted the USB carefully. The surface layer contained exactly what Dale expected, outdated vendor system credentials that would seem valuable but were actually useless since Melissa had already changed them. But hidden beneath, triggered by any attempt to copy the files, was a script that would mirror his hard drive to our cloud server. Is this legal? I asked Ava over the phone. You're entering with his invitation, using his computer with his permission to show him files he requested. What happens to be running in the background? Well, that's just fortunate timing. Monday arrived gray and drizzling. At 10:30 a.m., I stood outside my mother's house, the USB drive feeling like a grenade in my pocket. Evan waited in his car 2 blocks away, monitoring the camera feeds from his laptop. Dale answered the door with a triumphant smirk. There's my smart girl. Come in. The house reeked of cigarettes and coffee. Mom sat in the living room, pretending to watch television but clearly listening. Dale led me to his office, a converted bedroom cluttered with papers, empty beer cans, and 3 computers running simultaneously. Passwords, he commanded, gesturing at his main laptop. I inserted the USB drive with trembling fingers that weren't entirely an act. Everything's on here. Vendor access, shipping databases, even Kurt's executive portal credentials. His eyes lit up with greed as he clicked through the fake files. Jesus Christ, this is the whole operation. Kurt said you only had basic access. I've been collecting for months. I lied. Insurance policy. While he explored the surface files, the hidden script executed silently. A tiny progress bar appeared for just a moment in the system tray: 5%, 20%, 40%. Dale was too focused on his perceived gold mine to notice. "This shipping database," he murmured. "We could redirect entire containers with this. Reed's been saying if we could just—" He caught himself, glancing at me with sudden suspicion. "I told you," I said, maintaining eye contact. "I want in. I'm tired of being the victim. Prove it." He pulled up his email. "Send Kurt a message. Tell him you have evidence about the fraud, but you're willing to deal." This wasn't part of the plan, but Ava had coached me for improvisation. I typed, "Kurt, I know about Bright Harbor LLC and the override protocols with Reed. We should discuss terms. I have documentation that could be problematic if it reached the wrong hands. Send it." I clicked send. Within seconds, my phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. Kurt just ran to his office and slammed the door. Dale laughed, a harsh sound like breaking glass. "Now you're thinking like family." The USB script completed its upload, 78% of his hard drive captured, including a folder labeled Insurance that contained meticulous records of every illegal transaction. Dale had been keeping his own evidence, probably to blackmail his partners if needed. "I should go," I said. "Kurt will expect me to act normal." "One more thing." Dale opened his desk drawer, pulling out a worn notebook. "Your mother saved this. Thought you might want it back." It was my graduation guest book from college. Inside, my 22-year-old signature appeared dozens of times as I'd thanked relatives for attending. The pages were smudged with pencil marks where someone had traced over my writing repeatedly. "Practice makes perfect," Dale said, watching my face. "Your signature was tricky, that weird way you do your P's, but Reed said I nailed it by the third account." I wanted to vomit. Instead, I forced a smile. "Clever." Back in Evan's car, I broke down completely. He held me while I sobbed, the violation of seeing my own handwriting weaponized against me too much to process. "We got everything," he said softly, showing me his laptop. "The whole drive uploaded. Nat, there's stuff here going back 3 years. Emails with Kurt planning your termination, contracts with shell companies, even recordings of phone calls." That evening, Ava reviewed the uploaded files with barely contained excitement. He recorded his own conspiracy calls. He documented the signature forgery practice. "This is prosecutorial gold." Officer Brooks was equally impressed. "There's enough here for RICO charges. This isn't just fraud, it's organized crime." We prepared for the next phase. The warrants would be served simultaneously. Tuesday morning, Kurt at his office, Reed at the bank, Dale at home. But I had one more card to play. "Can we make Kurt think Dale flipped on him?" I asked. Before the arrest, Ava smiled. "Forward him something from Dale's uploaded files. Make it look like Dale sent it." I chose carefully an email where Dale called Kurt "that pompous fool" and detailed his plan to cut him loose once the heat came down. I forwarded it from a spoofed address at 215 a.m., adding just one line: "You should have treated me better. D.C." By dawn, Kurt had sent 17 increasingly panicked emails to Dale, each one more incriminating than the last. The empire was eating itself alive, and I hadn't even played my final card yet. Tuesday morning at 8:45 a.m., I walked back into North Star Fulfillment wearing my best suit and carrying a briefcase full of evidence. The security guards who'd escorted me out 8 days ago exchanged confused glances. "Ms. Pierce, you're not authorized." "I'm here for the HR grievance hearing," I said, handing them Ava's letter. "Conference room C, 9 a.m. They made calls. 5 minutes later, HR Director Janet Kalowski appeared, her face carefully neutral. "Natalie, we weren't expecting—" "My attorney filed the request yesterday at 4 p.m., I said. "Federal labor law requires you to hold the hearing within 24 hours, unless North Star wants to add violations to the lawsuit." She led me through the operations floor, the same floor where I'd been humiliated. Conversations stopped as I passed. Phones appeared in hands. Good. I wanted witnesses. Conference Room C had glass walls facing the entire workspace. Janet had clearly expected a small, private meeting. Instead, Ava had insisted on the fishbowl. Let them see everything, she'd said. By 9 a.m., the room filled with players in this corporate theater, Janet Kalowski, 2 executives from corporate, North Star's legal counsel Richard Brennan, and Kurt Halford, who looked like he hadn't slept in days. His shirt was wrinkled, his usually perfect hair disheveled. Those 17 emails to Dale had done their work. This is highly irregular, Brennan began. So is conspiring to terminate an employee who discovered financial fraud, Ava countered, entering with Officer Brooks and 2 other officials. Shall we begin? I connected my laptop to the presentation screen. Every employee on the floor could see what came next. January 15th, I began, clicking to the first slide. Kurt Halford instructed me to process a wire transfer to Bright Harbor LLC. The transfer document appeared on screen. Kurt's signature highlighted, no purchase order, no documentation, $48,000. Kurt's jaw tightened. Standard contractor payment, March 22nd. Next slide. While I was in Portland on a trip Kurt specifically assigned, someone opened a credit account in my name at Lakeview Mutual. Split screen my hotel receipt from Portland, the bank's account opening form with the forged signature. The emergency contact Dale Collins, my stepfather. The bank officer who overrode security protocols, Reed Nolan. Murmurs rippled through the watching crowd outside. May 10th. Click. Internal email from Kurt to Reed Nolan. I read it aloud. Package arriving tomorrow. Follow standard override. Will confirm completion by Friday. That could mean anything, Kurt protested. It could, I agreed. Except package was Dale Collins, and completion was a $90,000 fraud in my name. I clicked through 23 more slides, each one a dagger. Wire transfers to shell companies. Emails discussing my removal weeks before the Morrison account issue. Screenshots of Kurt accessing the system at 2:47 a.m. to alter shipping manifests. This is circumstantial, Brennan interrupted. Is this? I clicked play on an audio file. Dale's voice filled the room from yesterday's recording. Kurt said you'd been asking questions about the transfers. Couldn't have that. Then Kurt's voice from a call Dale had secretly recorded. The Pierce problem needs to be solved before the quarterly audit. Make it public. Make it humiliating. She won't fight back if she's broken. The room went silent. Outside, I saw phones recording, employees typing furiously on Slack. There's more, I continued, clicking to the next slide. Kurt, remember when you insisted I take that Detroit conference trip last minute? Here's the email you sent to Dale that same day. I read it aloud. Birdie flying to Detroit tomorrow through Friday. Window is open. Janet Kalowski had gone pale. The executives were whispering urgently. One question. Kurt, I said, looking directly at him. Why did you laugh? What? When you fired me. When you read that termination letter in front of everyone. Why did you laugh? His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Officer Brooks stepped forward. Kurt Halford, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and racketeering. Wait. Brennan stood. This is a private HR hearing. Was? Brooks corrected. Ms. Pierce filed criminal charges yesterday. We're executing warrants at Mr. Halford's residence, Mr. Nolan's office at Lakeview Mutual, and Mr. Collins' home simultaneously. As Brooks read Kurt his rights, I pulled up one final item on the screen security footage Melissa had retrieved from 8 days ago. The entire operations floor watched Kurt reading my termination letter, that cruel smile spreading across his face, his laughter echoing as security escorted me out. Then it cut to Dale's voice from the recording. Smart girl. Maybe there's hope for you yet. Then to Kurt's email. Make it public. Make it humiliating. The montage ended with a single slide. Conspiracy, fraud, identity theft, assault. This is what North Star Fulfillment protects. The executives were frantically calling someone, probably their CEO. Janet looked ready to faint, and Kurt was being led out in handcuffs, past the same 63 people who'd watched him destroy me. But I wasn't done. Not yet. The dominoes fell fast after Kurt's arrest. Reed Nolan cracked within 2 hours of being taken into custody. Officer Brooks called me at 11:15 a.m. while I was still in North Star's parking lot, processing what had just happened. "He's singing like a canary," she said. "Every override, every falsified document, every midnight meeting with your stepfather. He's terrified of federal prison." Reed's confession came with receipts, literally. He'd kept personal records of every bribe Dale had paid him, every instruction from Kurt, every fraudulent application he'd pushed through. His meticulous note-taking, meant to protect himself, now became the prosecution's roadmap. By noon, Gordon Huff at Lakeview Mutual had provided the FBI with complete system logs. Every keystroke Reed had made, every security protocol he'd bypassed, every red flag he'd dismissed, all time-stamped and archived. "Look at this," Ava said, showing me the data on her tablet. Reed overrode signature verification 17 times in 6 weeks, all for accounts connected to your social security number or variations of your identity. The bank's investigation revealed more victims, 7 other employees at various companies where Kurt had connections. My case had broken open an entire network. Meanwhile, at my mother's house, the arrest hadn't gone smoothly. Evan called me at 1:30 p.m., his voice tight with controlled anger. Dale barricaded himself in the bedroom when the cops arrived. Mom's having a breakdown, screaming about family loyalty. When officers finally extracted Dale, he'd destroyed 2 computers and tried to burn papers in the bathtub. But our USB upload from yesterday had already captured everything. His destruction merely added obstruction of justice charges. "They found something else," Evan added quietly. "A notebook where he'd been practicing signatures. Not just yours, Mom's. Mine. Even dead relatives. He's been doing this for years." Nat. The FBI took over the case at 3 p.m. Agent Sarah Delacroix, a financial crimes specialist, laid out the scope. "This goes back 7 years. We're tracking over $3 million in fraudulent transfers across 43 accounts." That's when Marjorie finally called me. "How could you?" she wailed. "Your own family. Dale just wanted to help us get ahead. He assaulted me, Mom. He stole my identity." "You don't understand what it's like, struggling financially. Dale had a plan. His plan was fraud. It was survival." Her voice cracked. "You always had it easy. Good grades, good job. You don't know what it's like to fail, to need help." I hung up. Some bridges deserved to burn. The investigation moved to North Star's headquarters. By 4 p.m., federal agents were carrying boxes out of Kurt's office. His computer revealed years of correspondence with Dale, dating back to before Mom had even married him. They'd met at a casino, bonded over creative financing strategies, and eventually built their scheme. Richard Brennan, North Star's lawyer, called an emergency all-staff meeting at 5:30 p.m. I watched via livestream. Melissa kept her phone camera running from the back row. "Effective immediately," Brennan announced. "North Star Fulfillment is cooperating fully with federal authorities. Any employee with information about irregular financial activities should report it immediately. Whistleblower protections are in effect." Within an hour, 17 employees came forward with stories of Kurt's coercion, forced to process suspicious payments, threatened with termination for asking questions, pressured to alter records. My public humiliation had been his favorite intimidation tactic. Everyone remembered what happened to those who pushed back. That evening, Officer Brooks served the final warrant at Mom's house with me present. We needed to search for the original documents used to forge my signature. In the attic, inside a box marked Natalie College, we found it all. Every card I'd ever sent home, my graduation guest book, even practice sheets where Dale had traced my signature over and over, dated and annotated "too much pressure." "P needs sharper angle." Almost perfect. Reed approved this version. But the most damning evidence was a photo album. pictures from my college graduation, my first day at North Star, various family gatherings. In every photo where I appeared, there were notes in the margins: Portland Conference, March 15th, 18. Detroit Training, April 2-5. Never Home Wednesdays, late meetings. They'd been stalking my life, cataloging my patterns, waiting for windows of opportunity. "This is premeditation at its finest," Agent Delacroix said. "This will ensure maximum sentences." As we left Mom's house, she stood in the doorway, tears streaming. "You've destroyed everything." "No," I said, finally finding my voice. "I'm rebuilding from what you destroyed." That night, the local news ran the story: Kurt's mugshot next to Dale's, with Reed's employee photo between them. The headline: "Major Fraud Ring, Busted Local Woman Exposes Corporate Family Conspiracy." But the real victory came in a call from Janet Kalowski at 9:45 p.m. "The board has met. Your termination has been reversed with full back pay. Additionally, North Star is prepared to offer a substantial settlement for the hostile work environment and retaliation you experienced." "I want it public," I said. "The settlement, the apology, everything. Same audience that watched him humiliate me." "That can be arranged." I sat in my apartment, surrounded by evidence boxes and legal documents, and finally allowed myself to feel the weight of the last 10 days. The bruise on my jaw had faded to yellow-green, but the memory of Dale's fist remained sharp. Kurt's laughter still echoed in quiet moments. Tomorrow would bring more battles, trials, testimonies, facing them all again. But tonight, for the first time in years, I felt free. The public hearing was scheduled for Friday at 10 a.m. in North Star Fulfillment's main conference hall, the same room where they held company-wide meetings, award ceremonies, and apparently public executions of employees' careers. They'd removed the glass walls and opened retractable partitions, converting it into an auditorium. Every manager, every team lead, and most importantly, all 63 employees who'd witnessed my humiliation were required to attend. HR called it a mandatory compliance and ethics training. I called it justice. I arrived early, wearing the same suit I'd worn the day Kurt fired me, but this time with my head high. Ava walked beside me, briefcase in hand. Officer Brooks stood near the entrance with 2 federal agents. The FBI had insisted on presence, given the ongoing investigation. Kurt sat in the front row, no longer in handcuffs but wearing an ankle monitor. His lawyer had gotten him house arrest pending trial, but the court required his attendance today. Dale remained in custody. His violent history and flight risk made bail impossible. Reed had already pled guilty and sat with prosecutors, prepared to testify. Janet Kalowski opened the session, her voice trembling. "We're here to address serious allegations and findings regarding the termination of Natalie Pierce." "Not allegations," Ava corrected. "Proven criminal conspiracy resulting in federal charges." The company's CEO, Marcus Webb, had flown in from New York. He stood at the podium, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 3 days. "Ms. Pierce, on behalf of North Star Fulfillment, I want to—" "Wait," I interrupted, standing. "I have something to play first." On the massive screen behind him, I projected the video from that Monday morning. My termination in high definition, surround sound. Kurt's voice boomed through the speakers as he read the false accusations. There was his smile, his laughter, the sound of phones clicking as people recorded my humiliation. Then I played Dale's confession. "Kurt said you'd been asking questions about the transfers. Couldn't have that." Then Kurt's recorded voice. "Make it public. Make it humiliating. She won't fight back if she's broken." The room was tomb silent. "Now," I said, turning to face the 63 faces who'd watched my destruction. "You can apologize." So, Marcus Webb's apology was thorough, legally crafted, admitting to severe failures in oversight and systemic harassment enabled by senior management. The company admitted to wrongful termination, conspiracy to defraud, and creating a hostile work environment. Furthermore, Webb announced, Ms. Pierce is being offered immediate reinstatement with a promotion to Director of Compliance, a newly created position reporting directly to the board. I decline, I said clearly. I wouldn't work for a company that allowed this to happen for 3 years. Gasps rippled through the crowd. However, I continued, I will accept the settlement, which will be donated entirely to a fund for employees who've been wrongfully terminated or harassed but couldn't afford to fight back. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Agent Delacroix took the podium. Based on evidence provided by Ms. Pierce, we've uncovered a fraud network spanning 7 companies and resulting in over $3 million in losses. Kurt Halford faces 27 federal charges. Dale Collins faces 31 charges including assault, identity theft, and racketeering. Reed Nolan has agreed to testify in exchange for a reduced sentence. She paused, scanning the room. We've also identified 4 other North Star employees who were complicit. They'll be arrested following this meeting. The panic was visible, people looking around, wondering who among them would be let out in handcuffs. Additionally, Delacroix continued, Marjorie Collins has been charged as an accessory. Evidence shows she provided personal information and documents knowing they would be used for fraud. That hit harder than I'd expected. Despite everything, she was still my mother, but she'd chosen Dale over her own daughter's safety and future. Ava took the microphone next. Civil suits have been filed seeking damages of $12 million. North Star's insurance company has already indicated they'll settle. Lakeview Mutual Bank faces federal oversight and fines exceeding $2 million. Every fraudulent account has been cleared from Ms. Pierce's credit report. Finally, it was my turn. I walked to the podium, looked at Kurt, who couldn't meet my eyes, then faced the crowd. 8 days ago, in this room, you all watched as I was destroyed professionally and publicly. You recorded it. You shared it. Some of you laughed. I let that sink in. But you also witnessed something else, what happens when corrupt leadership believes they're untouchable. I pulled up one final slide, a photo of me at my desk, back when I believed hard work and integrity mattered. Kurt Halford and Dale Collins didn't just steal money. They stole my identity, my reputation, my sense of safety. They counted on my silence, my shame, my isolation. They were wrong. I looked directly at the camera Melissa had set up to stream this company-wide. To anyone out there being harassed, intimidated, or forced to participate in corruption, document everything. Find allies. Speak up. The system that protects them is made of paper, and paper burns. Kurt was escorted out first, his ankle monitor beeping as he passed. 4 other employees were arrested as promised, their shocked protests echoing through the hall. But I saved the final word for the end, speaking directly to those 63 faces. In this place, where you stole my voice, I took back everything. The room erupted applause from some, stunned silence from others. But I didn't stay to see it. I walked out with Ava and Evan, leaving North Star Fulfillment behind forever. 3 months later, Dale was sentenced to 12 years federal prison. Kurt got 8 years. Reed received 2 years with supervised release. Mom got probation, and community service judge said she was more victim than perpetrator, manipulated by Dale. I didn't attend her sentencing. The settlement money funded legal aid for 17 other employees who came forward with their own stories of Kurt's abuse. The fund continues to grow. And me, I started my own compliance consulting firm, specializing in protecting whistleblowers and investigating corporate fraud. My first client, Melissa, who was promoted to head of IT at North Star after testifying about the systemic failures she'd witnessed. They thought they'd broken me with public humiliation and private violence. Instead, they taught me that revenge isn't about destroying your enemies, it's about rebuilding yourself from the ashes they created, then letting them watch you rise. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're hearing this from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more stories like mine, and share your thoughts about what you would have done in my situation. Sometimes the best revenge truly is massive success.